when a cat goes outside and eats a bunch of grass, it throws up. And the throwing up is not happening because it's sick. It's throwing up because it wants to get something out of itself. And it's eating grass to make that happen. And we're like that. We do things that don't look good, and then we express ourselves in ways that we think is wrong with us, and then we think we're sick. But we're much more like that cat. We do things in patterns that bring something up and out of us that are part of our nature. And the things that look sick are our medicines. And it's really the world and the culture and the traumas and the difficulties that are sick. And our illnesses are the smartest part of us. Don't believe the world who says you're a sick person when you throw up, or when you got headaches, or when you're insecure, or when you're depressed, or when you're chronically tired, or when you have a big belly and you can't make it thin. You should know you're living in a world that doesn't want you to have be a big belly, big person, and wants you to be up and going and not depressed, and wants you to act a certain way. And something in you doesn't go along, that's your healthy impulse. It's not easy to be a unique, diverse human being in a world that wants to normalize and socialize you. That's a painful thing. We can't undo that.
Welcome to another episode of the Being and Doing podcast, where it's my intention to bring guests who will ignite a spark of curiosity inside of you and maybe bring a different perspective to stories that you've already heard or experienced. And tonight, my guest is David Bedrick, a healer, a teacher, and an author, and someone that I feel a deep resonance with, and whose work has helped me and I think is helping a lot of my clients. And tonight, we are going to talk about his journey and his work, and shame, because I think that's a lot of what your work is about, David. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to sit with you. Mhm.
I start this conversation by asking all of my guests to say what are some words that you identify yourself with beyond what you're used to be presenting to the world.
Mhm. Well, there's a few words that come up that I don't always mention, but they're around lately. One of them is aging, because
Mhm.
I'm about to be 70. I don't know how old or young that means, but inside I'm noticing my aging process. And in the last few years, how my body is changing and my energies are changing. So aging is a word that's around for me. Um, the word beauty has
Mm.
been around for me because I'm also like you in many ways a scientist. I study things and want to understand them empirically, and that's a large part of my work. But there's an essence to how I see things that I have not talked about until my last book in the introduction, actually, that I see a certain beauty in what people find difficulty. And that's a strange word because what does that mean to be beauty in my tumor or something? So it's not a literal thing, but it's a sense that there's something beautiful in things. And that word beauty means a lot to me because I don't know exactly what I mean by it. And I like that. Uh, Um,
Can
yeah.
we actually go off of that, exactly what you've just said? Because
Yeah.
that is my felt sense of you. A
Mm,
sense that there is a reverence towards people's pain,
yes.
and a possibility to alchemize it through you.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what took for you to get to that place. And I
Well,
know a bit of your story,
mhm.
but but maybe we could share some of it here.
Yeah. I mean, my first answer is I don't know. I mean, I can sense the story that connects with these things, but some things are just mysterious. Like why does one person look at things and see aggression and somebody else see beauty and someone else see pain and someone else see
Mm,
a blur only the earth around them? And so I think we're given certain gifts and we look at the world through those gifts. Sometimes that's more painful because the gifts have traumas and injuries and wounds around them. Um, but for some reason, I was given a gift of seeing something beautiful or believing in things that people didn't believe in, not necessarily spirits or stars. Some people have that, um, but believing that there was intelligence in difficult things that wanted to be revealed. I couldn't say it that way when I was young. I
mm,
just thought I grew up I mentioned to you probably in a violent family. My father used fists and belts, I often say, to express his rage. And my mother was in denial about that, even though things happened in front of her. My brother, I had one sibling, an older brother, and he got the worst part from my father, but my brother took out a lot of things on me. He hurt me badly over periods of time. And as a child, I always had a sense that he was trying to express something. Now, somebody would say, "You're being hurt, don't you're in denial," or which was also true, by the way. I wasn't hurt and I was in denial. I didn't get that I was in an abuse scene. I didn't know that inside of myself. But also there was something in me that thought, He's probably trying to show me and people something." And that's just kind of a strange thing again, because it's not saying it's okay, let people hurt you. That's not the point here. Um, but somehow that was in me.
mm,
And many people, when I was young, would say things that indicated the same thing. You always listen to me in certain ways, or you're always trying to teach me certain things, even when I was very young. Um, but when I was 34 years old, which is 36 years ago, I met a man who became a teacher of mine. His name is Arnold Mindell. He died about a year ago. And I went to a seminar of his, and he worked with a woman who had cerebral palsy in the middle of a group of 100 or so people. I'm allowed to tell the story, by the way. Her name is Sandy, and she's okay with me talking about it. And he said to her something that resonated so deeply, and I was amazed by. And he said, how would you move if you weren't trying to move more normally?
mm,
Because she had a lot of physical therapy to try to help her move her body in ways so she can do normal things, get to the bus, pick up a glass. And he was saying, what would your body do if you weren't doing what you were educated to do, which was so you can function? And she started moving her body in these strange ways, and he started supporting her to keep moving how she would move, given the cerebral palsy would be taking over her movement, which most people are trying to get over, right? We want to
mm,
help correct that, and which would be great if we could free her from that difficulty. And she started moving in circles naturally, and then she was off balance, and the more circular her motions were, the more balanced she became, and pretty soon she was spinning like
mm.
a child, spinning, and she was totally balanced. And Arnie screamed out to her, "What kind of person are you?" Right? Who's doesn't walk from A to B but spins. And she said, "I'm a wild woman." She said with this because she couldn't control her mouth the same way. And so that changed my life to believing in people. I'm like, something is in people that's kind of magnificent. And it doesn't mean their suffering is not important
Valid,
or
yeah.
is not real or that now they're healed and she doesn't have cerebral palsy. She still has cerebral palsy and it's still difficult. Um, but uh, but I met her,
Mm,
and that resonated with me to meet that part of her, to be compassionate for her pain, but have a compassion for that spinning woman that is so magnificent also. So that was part of the unfolding of my worldview.
mm. As in, as I'm hearing you, is almost like coming back to the word beauty, is allowing the beauty of that imperfection to express.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we often omit when we try to normalize.
Yes. I just came from Bratislava in
Mm,
Slovakia, so we were probably not too far from each other. And they were filming a documentary of me working with women with eating disorders.
mm,
And one of the one of the uh, women I worked with that they filmed ate and purged. She threw up. People call that bulimia. And I'm saying call that because we had a whole discussion with a group about what is it like to be labeled as having an illness? And anyway, that's a whole discussion. Not that it can't be useful, by the way, but it made me sensitive to the labeling. But and we worked together for a while on camera, but one of the things that we did, which I've done before with people who eat and then throw up, is to ask them what it's like to throw up
mm,
and to show me without literally having stuff coming from their stomach and esophagus out of their mouth, but to show me energetically and physically what it's like to take something to pull something up from the gut and bring it out in a way that's not so pleasant that other people will find unpleasant and ugly, quote unquote. It was amazing. The voice that was in her, the power that was in her, something in her that wanted to come up and out of her,
mm,
and how silenced she had been, and how unstoppable that impulse is, that even though decades of therapy and hospital visits couldn't stop that. So again, we have to be compassionate for the pain, and that could be really bad. She could lose teeth and esophagus, and it's a real body suffering and a world suffering because people are going to look at her and then she can't eat the way people do it. So there's a lot of suffering that we have to acknowledge and not dismiss. And then there's the magnificence of something that won't be stopped, that decades of trying to make go away, something still wants to come up out of the depths of her and scream out of her mouth about how she feels and sees the world. So
mm,
to me, there's a kind of a magnificent beauty, difficulty, pain, ugliness, and then a beauty that something alive, a life force says, I'm still going to do this thing. And you can't only stop me. Mhm.
mm. And as you were speaking, actually, I was thinking life force, and that's one of the posts that you wrote about is you were writing about addiction,
Mhm.
and understanding the wisdom of addiction, and speaking of this right now, it does remind me because in that post, I think you were talking about how does it feel when you're high, and
Mhm.
how often we don't really ask that question. Um, Afraid, and I understand the fear we have that's very existential, but afraid of going there, and how often the the need gets missed if we don't ask that question.
Yeah. It's an incredible thing. I've worked with people who smoke cigarettes for 20 years, 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and they don't know and have never been asked, what's it like to smoke a cigarette?
Hmm.
And the only answers they have is, it's bad, it's smelly, people don't like it. I'm soothing myself. There's nothing like, let me feel into that and actually
Hmm.
tell you what I'm experiencing. No one's asked, and they haven't asked themselves. And it's not even a question that people are conceiving of.
Hmm.
What's it like? And they say, what do you mean? And one person said, what do you mean? I said, I gave them a pencil because I don't want to give them a cigarette. I'm not encouraging cigarette smoking. And I said, and I had a pencil, and I said, show me. Let's make believe we're smoking. Show me what you do. How do
Hmm.
you inhale? How do you hold it in? How do you let the air out? Do you put your head up? Do you blow it out? Do you blow it out slowly? Do you inhale deeply? I want to know what you're doing. And just in a short period of time, we learn amazing things, which I'm happy to talk about. But the fundamental is we're not asking ourselves. No one's asking. And we're trying to get rid of this thing. And if we could stop a person from smoking, let's do it because it's unhealthy. And um, but a lot of people, no matter what the method is, it doesn't help.
Hmm.
So what are they doing? What is such a powerful impulse that against self-hatred and people not liking them and then possibly getting cancer from smoking? What kind of life force says, I'm going to do this anyway? That's a fascinating question to me.
Hmm. Hmm. And that I really like that was the life force that all of these images cannot stop from being expressed. And so, what are
Yeah.
the answers that you've got through extensive work that you've done,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, that you gathered around this life force? Of course, people can read your books because obviously they speak a little bit to it,
Yeah.
but maybe if you could give a sort of a short answer, I know it's not an easy one.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a great question. It's more nuanced and diversity driven than people think. Like some people say, well, then why do people drink alcohol? Oh, people do that too, and they have an answer.
Yeah.
But then one person drinks alcohol and becomes social, and without the alcohol, they're alone. And then they drink and they go out to a bar and they meet people and they're very shy and they don't talk to people. But when they're drinking, they drink in public and they flirt and they meet people and they find partners and lovers and, oh, right. And another person drinks and sobs and tells people stories about their pain in their life that they never talked about from a war they were in. And another person drinks and becomes playful. And another person does daring things and they're always conservative in their life. So there are certain patterns that have to do with certain substances and things like that. But it's really quite diverse. What gets freed up is something that lives in you. Um, so we have to be open to the diversity that lives in different people. Yeah, I wish I had an
Mm.
answer. Some things have more obvious patterns in them, like the bulimia difficulty, the eating and purging has a very important unexplored thing of the throwing up. Um, Asthma has a lot of power and pressure and surrender in it. For instance, if I was asthmatic, I had asthma, and you said, show me what it's like to have asthma, that's my question. Um, I would do a number of different things. If we could be physical, see, people have done this with me. Imagine this, not as a man hugging a woman. That's not what we're talking about right now. Imagine I was behind you and I put my arms around you so that I was constricting your chest.
Mm.
And then I said, go ahead and try to breathe in. And when you try to breathe, I tightened. People
Mm.
could maybe imagine that. And you would kind of, and I wasn't allowing your chest to expand and then breathe. So some people would show it to me that way. So that there's a strong band or strap or arms around them. And it's not the arms of tenderness or care. It's I'm going to constrict you. So they, inside of them, they have this strong capacity to hold and muscle in them that could constrict something, that could hold something. So asthma has that. And some people, when that happens to them, that constriction, some people push against that and they have like a kind of power. And some people feel like it's too much for me and they surrender. You got me. I can't breathe. And they let go. So if you work with asthma, and I've worked with lots of people with asthma over the years, you tend to see those two things, a lot of muscle and ability to grab things and hold things and be up against strong pressures, or I want to surrender, I want to give up. Um, Not everything has those kind of patterns, but some things you can, and I can talk about
Mm.
certain other illnesses, in fact, that have certain patterns, but then we have to be open to the diversity of people.
Mm. And
Yeah.
what what would you speak, how could you speak to the unshaming approach? Because shame is a big part of your work. And I can
Mhm.
say I mean, I really love the book, and it's not really about the book. I don't think your being can be translated in those words.
Mhm.
I think it's more an approach of presence. But for example, one post that I like and I share with a lot of my friends and clients
Yeah.
is um, is the one about entanglement and how we're all entangled. And I don't
Mm.
know, in the post you say that you had a teacher who told you, um, when you said, "Oh, I'm again in the same pattern. I'm entangled again,"
Oh yeah, yeah.
and you had a teacher that told you, "That's great, and now you need to do it one more time."
I remember that. Yeah.
But this time consciously. And
Right.
I use this time consciously a lot with my clients. It's extremely supportive to remember that this time let's see what's going on for you.
Yeah.
But how did the words, I think, I mean, I don't know you, but I do feel like I know you through your work. And I
Hmm.
can imagine that a lot of the experience has emerged as experience, but how did the words come to what you were experiencing?
The words around shame specifically.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And what's actually your um theoretical take on shame? How do you
Yeah.
see it?
I mean, like you in certain ways, I'm a scientist, meaning I study things and then I don't define things as based on my ideas. I define it based on what I've seen. So I say, now I've seen this happen and this dynamic. And if I can describe it in a way that is useful, that speaks to where things came from, its etiology, and what to do about it. If I can answer those three questions, then I think I know something. If I
Mm,
can't answer those questions, I think it's just a word and I don't know what to do with. And shame for most of the literature, is a word that's not clearly defined in the way I would want it. Shame is this terrible feeling that I have to hide myself. You've seen my naked body and I want to close it up and I don't want you to see my fat belly or whatever, or my genitals or whatever that's going to be. So people think that's shame. It's this painful, difficult feeling. A lot of writers about shame describe it that way. However, most shame has no feeling associated with it. And some people feel a lot of shame and feel better about what they've been able to hide.
mm,
So, so it doesn't work that well. You could be a woman who thinks it's really good to be quiet and not to be too out with my opinions. It would be painful, but many women have taken that in, and many women would feel good about themselves just sitting and listening and not saying their ideas. And they're not sitting saying, it was so painful. They're thinking, I did really good today.
and yet, yeah, and yet shame is at work there.
And yet shame is powerfully at work. So what about
Yeah.
this definition that says it's this agonizing experience? A person would say, I don't have any shame.
Mm,
And that most shame operates under the radar unconsciously, not as a I just am so full of it that it's marginalized aspects of me so well, and I'm almost happy that they're marginalized. I don't want to be vulnerable and hurt, for instance. I got hurt a lot as a child, and I had a mother who said, that didn't hurt, that's no big deal, it didn't happen. So then when she looks at me and says, what are you talking about? That didn't hurt, that's not a real thing. Then I look at my own hurt and think, what's wrong with me? That shouldn't be there. There's nothing to pay attention to. So
mm,
then I walk in, you can say something really terrible to me and hurt my feelings. I won't know it.
mm,
So I'm not thinking, oh, having this terrible, shameful experience. I won't feel hurt at all, or I'll think, why am I up tonight? What's wrong with me? Like, how come I can't sleep? I had a lovely conversation with Alexandra. I won't have a remember of getting hurt. I won't have anything about that, but shame will have
mm,
disconnected me from it, dissociated me from it in a real way. And then it will come up in other ways. I'll be up at night thinking about things, let's say, or I'll have a stomach ache maybe about it, or I'll be worrying about things or criticizing myself. I won't think that has to do with you saying something hurtful to me. You didn't say anything
mm,
hurtful, right? I won't think any of those things. I'll think, What's wrong with me? Why am I like this? What's wrong with me? Why am I like this? I should go to my therapist and tell them how insecure I am. And I'll never tell them I had an interaction with Aleksandra and she said something to me on this video. I'll never say that because I don't know that that
Mm.
happened. I'm totally, is all
Interesting.
I think is, what's wrong with me that I get so insecure in the middle of the night? And then my therapist will help me with my insecurity and we'll never hear the story. And we'll never know I got hurt. And we'll never know that I disconnect from my own hurt as a way of living life. It'll be all invisible.
Mm.
Yeah. That's common. That's not a rare thing. That's common.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm wondering what is then the therapeutic work, or how the for people who are listening who are not therapists, what can they start doing for themselves to recognize, to bring to a consciousness?
Yeah. It's such a great question. I've asked that so many times and I have certain answers that I know, certain things, answers I've given that I know are helpful, but I want to think again when you're asking. I think the thing I'm shyest to say, shy, because I think I shouldn't be promoting my own self, but watching a person treat another in an unshaming way, watching it in front of you is such a powerful thing. It wouldn't have to be me, and I have lots of videos people can watch, hour-long videos, on Unshame TV. I have a thing to people to watch, and I'm not trying to just get people to do that, but seeing it in front, watching my teacher, Arnold Mandel, talk to this person with cerebral palsy and ask her to show us what it's like. That changed my life. Then I have ideas about that. But to see a person treated in a certain way, to see when this documentary comes out, to see me treat a woman who is vomiting as an intelligent, magnificent, beautiful being who's expressing something, it goes in somewhere.
Mm.
I know that from all the years and people telling me because I would teach a class and then I've been teaching for a long time. I taught at a university for 8 years, many years ago, and et cetera. Um, I'll teach a class and I'll think, oh, these ideas I have about this topic are so good, and I'm so happy and proud of it. And then people give me feedback. Oh, I cried all the way through the seminar, and they never talk about quote unquote my brilliant ideas. And I think, what's happening? Why? I think I'm teaching this really, and then I really like my ideas. I'm happy with them, and I've thought about them and written about them for a long time. But people's hearts are getting touched by something that's not my theory, which is, again, some people want to study with me, and that's great. But they're, and I'm like, what are they being moved by? What's happening? And when I ask people, they're saying things like, I'm watching you treat a person in a certain way, a sacred person who has something magnificent in them, not as a problem or as an illness, believing that they're special in a way, and then uh, inviting that, like a prayer, to emerge. Um, so seeing that is a big thing.
Mm.
Yeah. On a more, I don't know if it's a more practical level, but um, on a inner work, if people want to do inner work, almost everybody suffers from inner criticism, voices that are inside of our heads that say, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm undisciplined, I'm whatever those words are. I'm too loud, I'm not loud enough, I'm too sensitive. Um, Saying those critical words out loud so that you can hear them and responding as if somebody said it to you is huge because
Mm.
it's an inner violence that's happening that is unknown, it's unseen. And if it becomes more seen, um, people tend to understand more about themselves. Then I say, I'm really been treating myself so roughly today. It's been really hard on me. And I don't say, why am I such a mess today? I tell you a story about my inner life. People's inner lives are not known by the person and they're not out. And most of the inner lives are woven into social biases and ugliness and ignorance. this is the kind of woman you should be. This is what it means to be a man. This is how pretty or not pretty you are if you have darker skin. And so most of the things that people have inside of them, this is why you shouldn't be chronically ill because you're not productive. Most people have cultural voices married into those voices. So it's also a way of working on what we call internalized depression, to hear out loud and to respond. Um, because the violence that we have living inside of us is just unknown, and we just think, why am I feeling lousy? And but if you heard what was happening inside of you, and you imagine someone saying that to you throughout the day, you would know why you're scared, insecure, frightened, angry, resentful, wanting to scroll the internet rather than focus on things, timid to say what you have to say. You would understand why those uh, some of those difficulties are there.
And interestingly, that's exactly what I'm writing about, like these days,
Oh, tell
because
me.
um, I have taken a break, um, and in that break, I am with those voices.
Mm,
And I knew I was prepared for that happening because I knew people who were in the place I am right now. And they were like, that is the really most difficult point because now you removed all the external oppressors. And it's really the time to face all the internal nudges. Like, why are you not doing anything right now? Get up, or like this should have been done yesterday, or like really uncomfortable and do not know where my value lies these days.
yeah,
Um, and I think that is a privilege to get to that space
yeah,
of hearing your own internal oppressing voice.
yeah.
But it's also probably the biggest gift, um,
Mm,
because once that is known, uh, then and once that is understood and also kind of given boundaried,
yeah,
I think then externally boundaries become bigger, but I think it's maybe not a privilege that a lot of people have.
yeah, yeah. Most of us are run by those values, the values in the background, whether that's work hard and that's how you have to get ahead and you should use all your time
Yeah,
to be productive. Lots of folks have that, and whether survival reasons or cultures that say that's we value people who work hard and not people who
yeah,
garden and and take their time.
yeah,
Yeah, that's big. And then we feel good about ourselves when we act accordingly, and bad if we don't act accordingly. And it's an it's an inner totalitarian system.
exactly. And I think that is, I mean, I think you know that culturally, and I grew up in one. It, I think in transactional analysis they called that the cultural parent
No.
because we often have the image of parents, but I think we often forget the imprint that the culture leaves inside of us.
Yeah,
And for me, it was a gift moving cultures to get to know that.
yeah,
Um,
right.
but I wonder how was that process for you?
Mhm. Me personally,
Yeah,
I mean, there's two areas that I'm thinking about when you ask the question. One is uh, what is it what does it mean for me to be a male person in a male body, a man in the world? What ideas have I taken in about that?
yeah,
And and to what extent are those suit my nature and my gifts, the kind of person I actually am? So that's always an ongoing thing. I have a lot of, I have a wife of 22 years and I want to provide a best life I can for her that lives inside of me. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And I try to do that well. And I have a certain pride about that. But not all of me wants to do that.
mhm,
There are parts of me that if I do that too much, I have resentment. I'm like, I want to do other things, I'm getting older. I want to like write more poems and work less. So it's a beautiful thing in me, but it's also held too tight because there are parts of me that are more childlike. There are parts of me that are more tender. There are parts of me that more would rather write poems that even if no one hears them and nobody buys them and they don't go into any books and no one wants to do therapy with me because I wrote a poem about my inner dog. I've been writing poems about my inner dog. So so there's other aspects of me that aren't like this, the ideal of what a man um, should be in terms of how I provide, in terms of how assertive I should be as a person, as a sexual being. What happens if I don't fit those? And I don't only fit those a little bit some of the time. And
Mm,
then it changes over time. Because as I
mm,
age, some of those, I'm not the same person as a man that I was when I was 30. And that's good. It doesn't, not supposed to come the same, but you get those ideas. So um, it's the
mm.
male side of sexism. There's a role I'm supposed to play, and many men have that and don't know it. When I first started looking into that, when I was studying uh, sexism and mostly in women, but looking at male stuff, um, the roles, I learned at that time. This is quite a few years ago now, maybe 20 plus years ago. At that time, the largest selling uh, pharmaceutical drug on the planet was Viagra.
Yeah,
It's the
girl.
stuff that makes a man's penis hard. And it's given out like, if I went to my doctor and I said I want to be more ready for sex, they would not diagnose much. They would say, okay, great. You
Here's the
have
pill.
your dysfunction. Here's a drug to do that. And so it's a very interesting thing. So it's the largest selling drug on the planet. Does every single male who gets that drug have some kind of uh, pathological erectile dysfunction? No way. What is it? It's a gender ideal that says you're a man, you should be hard, you should be ready, and if you're not, that's not okay, and you shouldn't be soft, and you shouldn't need time, and you should whatever, and all these kinds of things. A woman, you should be
Mm.
wet and yummy and juicy, and a man, you should be hard and ready and penetrating. And sorry, I don't mean to be gross about that, but those are
No,
the
no, that is how it is.
yeah, it's gross because that's what's laid on people, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so so it makes me think about that in my own sense. I'm supposed to be that way. When am I not that way? So those conditionings live inside me pretty strongly. I'd have to be intimate with somebody, and luckily I have a wife of a long time to say, "This is what's going on in my body," and I feel scared about that, and I don't even want to tell you this because it's still I can't only undo all that conditioning in a minute. Um, yeah.
I really feel tenderness when you're speaking about this. And actually I think I have never opened this topic in the podcast before, so maybe we could just dive slightly more into it.
Mhm.
Because even when I'm working with male clients, what I find difficult is that it's much easier to find books for female clients. I'm really struggling to find a good book that
Mhm.
would that would serve men in the way to serve those sides that are not sexistly that are not gendered in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what supported you on that journey to unshame or to decondition.
Yeah. I mean, well, of course, my body doesn't go along with my ideas, as bodies don't always do, right? They decide they're tired, they decide they're soft, they decide they're not ready, they decide they have headaches, they decide, um, etc. Um, but having some older males in my life, it wouldn't have to be chronologically older, but it usually is. But so it's not only an age thing, but having somebody who's like one step ahead of me, so to speak. It could be many steps, but one step ahead, who says, "Oh, I understand that. I've lived through some of that. Let me," and doesn't have just like advice, do this and do that, but has some level of humility about it. Like, I can tell you the errors, I can tell you how I try to be that way. Um, that's been huge for me.
Mm,
Um, yeah, because there are various kinds of in the if there's a male world, I don't know if I can speak for the whole male world, but I've been men's groups and things like that over the years. There's various different kinds of elders, and some of them that are more, there are some that are more available that say men should learn to be more tender because we used to be a violent, brutal species like our fathers. Don't be that way. So there's that kind of education which is needed. I don't want to be my father. I don't want to raise my fists and my belts because my wife doesn't like what I said. I don't like what she said or something. So that's pretty gross. We have to do something about that. And then there's been a reaction to that of in kind of the male world of um, men need to be in their power and not put that away. And we've been too niceified. We become too nice and too soft. And now we don't have our strengths and our capacities to say yes and no and lead and do all these other things we think men should do. So there's like, and that's needed because it goes, it's a pendulum. Something says, don't be your fathers. And then somebody goes, okay, I won't. And then somebody says, I feel really disempowered. Okay. So there's that kind of thing um, in the male world. So you get male elders who tend to be more one or the other in that way. Um, what what was been most useful for me is neither one of those. It's been men. I never talked about this out loud except for a few different people individually. Uh, the greatest male elders who've helped me have had been in touch with the child they are.
Mm.
I don't mean the child meaning I'm a wounded child who they know that too, but playful, curious, in touch with their kind of the way they are, the kind of nature that you have, like that you're born with, um, have wonder about the world. Um, that's been really good for me. It's not that they don't have an adult person who's responsible and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but somehow they're not like either I'm going to be a tender person or I'm going to be a strong male. They have a lightness in them, and some men I've had the privilege to be around um, had that in me, in
Mm.
them, and they were like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, you mean I can be childlike also?" Which returned my play, but my wonder about life and my amazement, um,
Mm.
and the fluidness of feelings that's in the child. Has been much closer. So that didn't happen for me until I was in my 50s when I started feeling closer to that because of being around men who were not afraid to be childlike. It's
Mm.
really interesting. Uh, I was watching an interview with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu.
Yes, I've watched that. The Joy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like so happy that they,
I love Desmond Tutu. I
yeah,
just love him. Yes.
they were giggling and holding hands
Yes.
and teasing each other. And I thought,
Yes.
this is so good because a lot of people think an elder is like, Hi, Alexandros, I'm a wise man. What
Yeah.
question? do you have?" Well, let me offer my wisdom to you from my clear strength. And it's kind of like, but so we see that plenty, right? We have spiritual teachers and other teachers. I have arrived. I have healed myself. I'm like, mocking a little bit, but it's a little bit like of a serious I've pushed through and I've learned things, and we get this weighty gravity-ness, which is good. But then, but I always like the child in men. And here's these two men who like they're holding hands while they talk, like two little children, right?
Mm.
And giggling and teasing each other and poking each other. And I was like, oh, I hope the world sees these wise male human beings as as also playful children, not only as, well, I've been meditating for 50 years and I'm the spiritual teacher of Tibet, that kind of thing. But you loved it too, huh?
Yes, I did. I did. I did. And especially those moments of holding hands and just belly laughter. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that.
Mhm.
I was thinking, I know this might come out of the blue, but you've mentioned your poems. Is there anything that would not be too vulnerable to share if they're at hand?
Oh my gosh, I don't have any of them sitting here. And it's interesting that I don't know them, as we say, by heart. I don't have them memorized because I have other poets memorized. Um, I probably don't sit with them and read them uh, enough. um, for that to happen. So I wish I had one. I'd have to go look now if I'm inclined to do, but it wouldn't be a 10-second thing. It
Yeah.
might be a little longer to find it. I'm not trying to avoid the question either.
No,
I'm
no,
just,
no. I
although I
am
would be
hearing
shy
you.
to say them because inside of me is like they're not really that good or whatever, all those kinds of things. Um,
I thought
but
that might be the case. That's why I asked.
yeah,
And I,
yeah,
I did wonder, as I was listening to you as well, um, what do you at this, because you mentioned aging, um, at this time, with this knowledge, what do you really now like about yourself?
what do I not like about myself?
No, like,
What do
like,
I like about myself?
yeah. When you like, now you've had enough time to fall in love with yourself as so
Yeah,
to speak.
yeah,
What did you fall in love with?
yeah. I mean, I kind of was implying it before. It's around when I work with people, but not only. It's a childlike wonder and like a prayer. When somebody shows me something, there's a part of me that's so amazed, like a child, by what, like when I'm work with that woman who's throwing up, there's a child in me who's like, wow, that's amazing. And I'm blown away. And I've been doing this for 30 years. And I'm like, I feel like I've got visited by the divine every single time, and it never goes away. And it's interesting because one thing I'm aware of over the last years, I have a quite a big dose of insecurity that I've had my whole life. I'm not confident as much as I have often wanted to be, and my confidence comes and goes pretty easily. Some people are more stable like that. Mine could be, like in an hour from now, something could happen or nothing could happen. I might just feel like I don't know anything and I'm a wreck, and in another moment something else can happen. So I've never had this like I am confident person and it lasts for. But one thing I like,
Did you, like in your work, did you actually meet someone who has that sort of stability?
that's a good question.
I
Um,
I just finished I just finished a text which is called Work in Progress. Um, exactly because of that, I wonder if
mhm.
those who we perceive are having that stability are actually those people whose shame we hold.
Fascinating. Right. That's fascinating. Yeah, I think of some people that I probably project onto. That person looks like they're strong leaders and they know their values and this is how they come out all the time. And it's a little bit, when I think about it now, it's a little macho, not just in men, but it's a little, and some part of me must think I wish I could be that way and I don't feel like that way most of the time. I like your question though. Yeah. What happened to the child who's movable like that? And when I work with people, I so feel something sacred in what people wrestle with that my insecurity it feels very small because
Mm,
because my belief in what people are doing is so strong that it's bigger. So for those moments, it, it's like I don't have to be secure because I believe in you
yeah.
and your life and your energy and your headaches or your throwing up or your depression or and it's like a belief in life or something. It's like a faith around my own
Mm,
abilities and skills and will I stay strong and will my clients come back tomorrow and will I get as much money? It depends on the weather can affect me on those things.
mm,
Um, but something else in me, which is not about my own skills or something, it's like life is going to show up
yeah.
every single
Mm,
time if I bow down and pray, and it does, you know. And I feel I can hand myself over to that, and I like that about myself. And kind of go, somebody's like, "Wow, you did a documentary. Was you scared?" Not even the tiniest little bit. And I'm an insecure person. Why? I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to bow down and pray to this some sacred thing, and it's going to start showing me as much as it's supposed to. And I know that will happen, not because of what I'm doing. I just know life does that when you say, I please, dear life, I open to you showing me, and I'll do everything I can to see you, that it does that. So it's like more of a belief in life in that way. Um,
Mm,
that I guess I must have had when I was young somehow, that
yeah.
uh, I, I didn't cultivate that. It was just always there.
Mm. Yeah, and I really genuinely asked that question because like I think now I'm at about 200 interviews. Most of those interviews are with what you would call successful people, people who you would project on um, those ideas of stability or
Yeah,
and 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 I think it did made me stronger in that belief that we are all in and out
nice,
of strength. And that's
nice.
why I mean I kind of wrote a piece of my Nobel Prize acceptance speech because I was always thinking of getting the prize. I was like, why do
I love that. You wrote a Nobel Prize.
yeah.
I
I,
gotta.
I I wrote it because it was so much on my head that I wanted that. And then I was like, I really needed to ask myself a genuine question of why is it so important to you? And then I came to the point of I just want to have a mic to say things and for people to listen. And then I was like, well, if I gave you that mic and you want to say something, what would you say? And one of the things that's really important for me
Love
is
it.
to realize that we are all on that wheel of fortune. It's just that some of us hold to that idea that we will never get on the other side. But
Mm,
I think it inevitably happens in the span of every person's life.
mm,
And that's why I always feel the invitation for compassion to ourselves and to others' vulnerability and quote unquote weakness
yeah,
is something we need to nurture. So,
that's gorgeous. I love that you did it that way, and you gave yourself the mic, and now you have right part of the intelligence that wants to flow out of you.
hmm. So we're kind of around the time. I
Yeah.
just want to check, is there anything you want to ask me, or is there anything that you would like to say, but you haven't had the chance to say or have the mic for, and now
Mm.
you do, and
No, I
you
have the
know.
mic. But my Nobel Prize,
What
listen
would
to me.
your
My
what would
Nobel
your
Prize, look at I'm getting like really big and serious, like
yes,
macho. I can't come. Well,
what
let's see.
would you what
Let
would
that
your
child do your
Nobel
Nobel Prize
Prize?
thing, David. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. I got, I was talking
You have
about.
you have a process right now.
Right,
But
exactly, exactly.
what would you, yeah, if you had a really big mic, which I think you do. So I think a lot of people have heard your message, but if you were to refine it in and at like out of 7 billion, 5 would hear you.
Right. I'm thinking because of what we were saying about this being a wise older person and being a child, and as you said that, I thought I should give the mic to the child, in me, and as opposed to the person who's figured things out over the years, and the child in me, let's say, let's see how it would go. I have such adult ideas. I have to get past them enough to feel the. Oh, that's not easy, but I can tell it's in there. When a cat goes to when a cat goes outside and eats a bunch of grass, it throws up. And it's not because, and the throwing up is not happening because it's sick. It's throwing up because it wants to get something out of itself. And it's eating grass to make that happen. And we're like that. We do things that don't look good, and then we express ourselves in ways that we think is wrong with us, and then we think we're sick. But we're much more like that cat. We do things in patterns that bring something up and out of us that are part of our nature. And the things that look sick are our medicines. And it's really the world and the culture and the traumas and the difficulties that are sick. And our illnesses are the smartest part of us.
Mm.
They're the medicine. Don't believe the world who says you're a sick person when you throw up, or when you got headaches, or when you're insecure, or when you're depressed, or when you're chronically tired, or when you have a big belly and you can't make it thin. You should know you're living in a world that doesn't want you to have be a big belly, big person, and wants you to be up and going and not depressed, and wants you to act a certain way. And something in you doesn't go along. That's your healthy impulse. It's not easy to be a unique, diverse human being in a world that wants to normalize and socialize you. That's a painful thing. We can't undo that.
Mm.
But being yourself, oh boy, that's the best you get. Hmm. Hmm.
Mm.
That's my child's, the closest I can get to the child. Hmm.
Mm.
Saw the cat. Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
I'm really glad we've I had an image of, you know, being eye to eye to little David,
Mm.
waiting
Mm.
for him to get to give me his message. It was really beautiful to witness.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're a lovely human being, and I what I want to say, it's easy to sit with you and your openness and your graciousness, and then I can also feel and hear your intelligence, your brand, and I know what that means, but I can feel, sense your brightness, that you hear certain things and you're listening in a certain way, and your questions go into places that you're thinking and seeing and studying, and you're lucky that the world has you, that you've
Mm.
part scientist and part healer, and that those don't have to be separate, and and communicator, that you're a speech writer in that way, and offering other people the platform to speak. Um, so thank you for that
Mm.
work you're doing and pulling those things together, that your life pulls together biology and science and PhDs and healing and podcasts, and is cooking up something that's good, that has beauty to it. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you for seeing that.
Hmm.
Sometimes I forget,
Hmm.
but it's definitely a work in progress. There's lots of moving pieces that I know their coherence. I don't know how they look on the outside, and they're
Yeah.
definitely not conducive to business, but
Yeah, right.
but I feel like I can't do it any other way, so it will have to be slower, but mine.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So is
Mhm.
there anything that you want to ask me before we finish, or that you want to add?
Do I want to ask you something? I like feeling you and getting to know you. I don't know. It's in a form of a question exactly. Um, the question I was wanting to ask was tell me a nighttime dream. That was what I was when you were talking about your life. I love nighttime dreams. I was thinking,
Mm.
interesting. I almost made believe I didn't have that question. I don't know how I would do that. But I first thought, oh, tell me a dream. As soon as you said, as I just said, tell me a dream, a butterfly came up to the window and was trying to get in, as if the window wasn't here in front of my thing. Anyway, um, but I thought, I could
Mm.
hear a dream, how these things go together. Or nighttime dreams often understand these things really well.
Mm.
Tell me a dream.
That's interesting. That's so funny, because I just had a dream that did that did it was a very scary one. but it did tell me I was in a room with a person who is someone who can analyze dreams, and it was a
Wow.
dream that told me embrace your alternatives. Embrace you being alternative. Um, don't reject those parts that don't feel like they um, are normal, quote
Got it.
unquote.
Got it. You're
Um,
you're more radical than you're free to be, and you may be more radical. I'm using the word radical meaning
yes,
outside of whatever radical means to you,
yes,
radical than you may even know.
that's exactly it.
That's why you dream about it. So it's not just be more free to be more radical. That's true. But you may be more radical than you know. You may be a more radical person than you
Then I
know.
allow myself as well. Yeah,
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 then you allow your freedom and even allow yourself to know about yourself.
yeah,
Because why would it be scary? It'd be scary because there are things I don't even know about myself, how I would really be. Those are those are even further away from the awareness. That means they live in other places. Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
the alternative. Hmm. Embracing that. And it's scary. It's scary to embrace your alternativeness. Some people say, why would it be scary? Oh my gosh. The more individuated a person gets, the more things shake up.
yeah.
Relationships, incomes, whatever, family dynamics, the world that says, I want to pay you, and it may pay you a lot more. It may, we don't know what's happening. It may pay you less. It may, whatever. All the reasons inside and outside, breaking gender rules and cultural rules that have been established over generations, usually. Um,
Yeah. It's basically shaking cage by cage, but there's lots of cages.
Lots of cages.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's amazing. You're with a dream analyst.
Yes, it was
I guess I'm playing that role for the moment, although it's also you, right? Um,
yeah. No, it was actually amazing what you've said because I think I didn't get that part in the analysis that there is something that's even outside of the current awareness I have.
yeah,
And actually, the funny thing you said, butterfly, I just came from a retreat, and my most, well, it was called Joy Treat, a permission to be joyful. And um, and it is radical in this day and age to be joyful, actually, which is what you were talking to a little bit.
yeah,
And there was this sentence that they say, um, it's only us who see the butterfly's wings. The butterfly doesn't see it.
wow,
And sometimes it's the people that see the beauty of the butterfly. So you might be that butterfly, and we might be the ones who can help you to see how beautiful you are.
gorgeous.
And I think that's another thing why all of this is together, because I do believe that we need others.
Yeah,
Um, uh, we see each other in other people's eyes,
mm,
and that's how our lives start. And I think that's how we heal and grow. And yeah, so I
how can I
think
support you in your alternative, more radical way of flowering? Is there anything I can
mm,
do?
that's a really good question. Well, can I get a second to feel into that as well?
Take a second and feel into it.
Because the word, that's an interesting thing that you have said, because the word that came in that in that retreat was support. Uh, and maybe it's just knowing that it's possible, that my dream, that I'm allowed to dream differently,
Yeah,
and that it's not going to be punished. I think that's my fear.
yeah,
That dream was kind of showing that the dream was about if I get in front of more people, they will laugh at me. And it
yeah,
was um, so it was actually like my sister who was telling me off for the things that I was doing off track in the family system, and then and I was getting punished for that. So I think there is that internal persecutor that I don't
Hmm.
really know how to deal with. I do have i- really big fear that I will be persecuted in some way and
Yeah,
punished for the most beautiful parts of me.
yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
So that's maybe where I'm still searching for support.
yeah. It's happening. It's not in the future. It's happening. Something's persecuting you now. Maybe
Mm,
inside and but it lives in the world. Um, Study how it's happening in the moments, in the days.
mm,
Because it's not about the future only. It's happening in the moment. Hmm. Yeah. And the dream that you have says that one of the answers is dreaming. You see, because it's not it's a dream analyst. It's not a tarot card reader. That would be interesting. It's not a seer. It's not a shaman. Shamans could be a dream analyst, right? It's not a doctor. It's not a acupuncturist. It's not a friend. It's a dream analyst. And that says you're a dreamer,
oh, yeah.
literally, not just analyzing the dream, but
Yeah.
dreaming the dreams themselves is a radical thing. Being a dreamer is the
It's a radical thing. Exactly.
is a radical thing. That means we're not only hanging out in the literal parts of life, right? We're in the dreaming world, and we need dreamers. The rational answers are relatively ineffective for the big problems that the world has. Um,
Hmm.
but feel
Exactly.
free to write to me every so often and say, "I today I'm too scared to tell anybody what I'm thinking."
Hmm. Yeah.
You can say that, and I'll say, I understand. What is it that you would say? I
Thank
mean it.
you.
Write to me every so often, and
Thank you.
you have an ally in the world who understands, who got dreamt into being a dream analyst. Like became part of your dream for some reason. So that's a then that I didn't intend that to happen, but there you are. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, because that is one thing that my supervisor often says, if we don't hang in together, we will hang separately. And
Yeah,
it is something that always reminds me of the importance of not being alone in my dream.
huge. Some people say, I've talked about this in different places. You have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And then I always say, it took a lot of people for me to sit here. I got to tell you,
Yes.
who had to love me a lot more than I was loving myself. A lot of people. And if you talk to my wife, she would testify to how much work it takes to love me into being a person who could write a book, and then other people and students and all kinds of things, and teachers and friends, and so.
That's interesting. That's what I say to clients. I say often they are like, "Oh, I have this critical part of me," and and I often say all those parts were before they were inside of you, they were outside of you. And the
Yeah.
same way that before love was inside of us, it was outside of us. So
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
Hmm. Alexandra, what a
thank you
pleasure.
so
Hmm.
much. It was really a blessing to have this time with you. So really, thank you a lot. And yeah, uh, I would say keep dreaming, but not to you, probably to myself.
Keep
Or
dreaming
maybe
to
to
both
you
of
as
us.
well. Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe next year we'll meet because I'm going to make another. I just came back from London and Vienna and Amsterdam and Bratislava, but I think next year I'm going to do something. Uh, I'm definitely going to be back in London because there's a lot of people interested in there, and probably Amsterdam, but I've been thinking about uh, Romania or
Maybe
Slovakia,
Serbia.
something. Oops. Don't
Yeah.
listen to that. I'm not listening to that. How do I stop it? Sorry
Yeah.
about that. No. Yeah, or maybe Serbia because because my book is going to be published there, and so something is calling me to that
Yeah.
area.
And having talking about your points, maybe that is an undreamed dream
It is.
for you.
It is. That's right. That's my secret identity, and I guess one of these days Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming out with a guidebook that goes along with my recent book, and there's 12 chapters, and each chapter starts with a little poem that I've written. So
Mm,
they're 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 sneaking into my world there, you know. They
yeah.
found a little slot, you know.
Mm. Thank you again.
Mm. You're welcome.